Welcome back, America. I'm Hugh Hewitt. Former Senator Jim Talent joins me now. Senator, welcome. He is the chairman of the National Leadership Council for the Reagan Institute. Did a marvelous podcast with Dwayne this week. Dwayne's World, the most recent edition. I recommend it to you. But Jim, I wanted to talk to you about Paul Wellstone to begin. You did not overlap, but you are connected because he died on October 25th. There was a memorial service after that. You were then elected in November, and you took your seat early for some reason. I don't know why. Do you remember the Wellstone Memorial Service and how it went off the rails?
Oh, I remember it very well, Hugh, because I was running that cycle with Norm Coleman, who was a very good friend of mine. We campaigned together. And after the memorial service, Norm called me up just to get my advice about how to handle it, because it had been turned into a Democratic rah-rah session, which ended up hurting Walter Mondale, the Democratic candidate, a lot. And Norm and I talked about it, and Norm ended up winning.
You see, what happened today is Matt Continetti on the Commentary podcast reminded me, I remember being repulsed. Senator Wellstone was a very principled, very left-wing senator who got along with his colleagues, and everyone was saddened by his tragic death in an airplane crash. But then that rally was so repulsive, it became like anti-Bush, and it helped Norm a lot. It may have helped you. It may have helped every Republican in the country. And Matt said, I sure hope Charlie Kirk's memorial service doesn't go off the rails. I don't think it will, but do you have that worry in the back of your head?
No, I'm expecting that service to be about two things. I think it's going to be about Jesus, because that's what Charlie would have wanted, and his wife knows it. And I think it's going to be about a celebration of Charlie's life, because that's what his wife wants, and that's what all his friends want. And I think all the speakers will respect that. I mean, there may be, the president's going to speak, and he'll probably talk about a little bit about the danger of political violence. I'm going to be very surprised if it gets partisan. I think it's going to be a very somber or sad occasion, but also a very uplifting one. I intend to watch it.
You know, I do too. I think the objective ought to be that at the end of it, an unbroken video exists that is children aged 1 and 3 can watch when they're 10 and 15 and 20 and 25. It doesn't have to be edited. That they'll want to watch every speaker. Of course, they'll want to watch the president. And he'll be funny. He'll tell funny stories about Charlie because Charlie was a funny guy. But mostly, he was quite the evangelist. He was quite the outspoken witness for Jesus Christ. I expect that to be in a lot. I don't know that Donald Trump's going to bring that up, because Charlie changed I met him in 2013, and he was a colleague with whom I was friendly, but he wasn't a close friend. I want to make that clear. Did you know he has a new book coming out called Stop in the Name of God, Keeping the Sabbath? Jim, did you know that drops on December 9?
I know that book is coming out, and isn't it interesting that he's addressing a subject like that in that book? And I think you're right. I think he'd become closer to his Lord over the years. I could tell. I went back this week and watched some of his videos, and he did have the ability to integrate his religious views with his political views in a way that was not offensive. I mean, I always worried about doing that, and the rule I generally had was if a reporter or somebody asked me about my faith, I gave them a very direct answer. I never wanted to act like I was ashamed, of my God. But I really tried to stay away from referring to it in any other context, because I didn't want to alienate people from Jesus, just because they disagreed with me politically. And it's a sensitive and difficult subject, but he had learned how to deal with it in a very winsome, always truthful way. I really admired him watching those videos.
If Charlie was talking to you, he would know the verse where Paul says, don't be ashamed of the gospel, for it is salvation both to the Jew and the Gentile. I hope I'm close. I'm Catholic, and I've heard everything at least 30 times, but I really can't put it all in right place.
Do you want me to quote it? Or...
Yeah, go ahead.
I am not ashamed. It's Romans, I believe, 1:17. I'm not ashamed of the gospel, because it's the power of God for the salvation of all who believe, first the Jew and then the Gentile. It's a wonderful, and he was not
Well,
ashamed of it.
I think I'm close enough for horseshoes. Charlie would have nailed it. My second question, do you know who that book is dedicated to?
No.
Dennis Prager. Because if Charlie had a mentor, and he really didn't, but if he had to name one, I think he would say Dennis Prager. I learned last week that of all of Dennis's colleagues, Charlie has been there the most at both places that Dennis has been receiving care since his terrible injury. And Dennis managed to get out his own tribute. Took him a while, but he got it typed, and it's very, very moving. People can look it up at Dennis's website. And the thing that Alan Estrin told me, I want your comment on, the tragedy of this that Dennis and Alan, who co-founded PragerU with Dennis, would tell you is that Charlie was at 40% of his capacity. He was so going to be so much more. But there's also this ricochet effect on people's faith. How do you summarize it?
Yeah, it's always, I think that's one of the reasons it struck me so hard. I told Dwayne, I believe the next day, that when I heard about it, I just quit working the rest of the day, went out to the back and sat on my deck and thought about all of this. And I think a big part of the reason is he was so young. And he's not a political figure. And, I probably shouldn't feel this way. But when a political figure gets assassinated, and of course, it's obviously terrible, but that's something that, that's happened before. And typically they're old fogies like me. And as shocking as it is, it's not the same as when a young person who has so much more to give gets removed. So what I console myself with is I think that there is some great redemptive purpose that God has in mind. It could be, probably will be in the lives of individual people. I hope there's something good for the country that will come out of this. I'm really starting to see it, and you've talked a lot about it as well. So
pause for a second, Senator. I'm going to talk to you during the break and then bring Jim Talent back on the other side. Don't go anywhere, America. I'm Hugh. I'm back with Senator Jim Talent. Now, Jim, because you and I are older guys, we have been to a number of memorial services. And I can remember the most moving of them, and I can remember the ones that went wrong because of a variety of reasons. What do you think makes the best memorial service for a believer in Jesus Christ like Charlie?
Well, I think sharing in whatever way that the minister or the priest is moved to do it, I think sharing about the person's faith, what that says about God, and how God affected the life of that individual. In other words, using the tragedy of death to reach out with life to people who are there. And it's not easy to do that in a way that is God honoring and that is encouraging to people and that appeals to those who maybe haven't considered those things before. But I'm very confident that whoever they have with the homily or the message at that funeral will do a good job. It's one of the reasons I'm looking forward to watching it.
Now, Jim, there will be a lot of people there who are not believers, who haven't heard the gospel, or who don't believe in the gospel. And what ought they to expect? Because, there will be a lot of people watching on TV who have no idea that Charlie was as evangelical as he was political.
Well, I don't know that they'll be expecting that, but if it's done in the context of, look, they're tuning in to hear about Charlie. And so if it's done in the context of how Charlie approached that and what it meant to him and why he was so passionate about serving God, I don't think they'll be offended. And I think it may help them as they think about the subject use. So I guess if I was going to try and approach it, if I was speaking and they wanted me to speak about that, that's probably how I would structure my remarks. I'd sure pray about it a lot. And obviously there's going to be a lot of people celebrating Charlie's life, his accomplishments, what he believed in as a husband and a father. It's going to be about Charlie too. but I
Yeah,
think
and
there'll be
we're coming right back, Jim. Stand by. I've got to go back on the network. Welcome back, America. Senator Talent has been gracious enough to stay a little bit longer with us because we're talking about prepping the audience for the memorial service for Charlie Kirk, which will have millions and millions of people watching it. Millions and millions of people watching it. And you were just saying there's got to be some stories about Charlie, the husband, Charlie, the dad.
Yes. Oh, I think there will be, and it's going to be, the speakers are going to be people who knew him personally, to include, of course, the president. So they're going to give their own personal reflections about it, and that's what I think you want. That you're not scripting this. I mean, Erica and her family, they're not. They may be suggesting to people, we'd like you to talk about this subject or whatever, but this is going to be the personal reflections about people of a man who they knew, who they admired, and who they want to come and honor. And I just, you've got to be truthful, you got to be honest, and you got to be personal in what you say. I'm going to be very interested to hear how the president handles it. Now he has the space and the permission to make a couple of comments about, how the country, what's important for the country to see in this terrible death. In other words, if he wants to comment on the importance of not turning politics into violence, he may do that. I think the others will keep it pretty personal to Charlie, except whoever.
The president was the target twice and was hit once but wasn't killed.
Right.
Charlie was the target once and was. I expect he will talk about that. But
Yeah,
I also
that's a good point.
expect that there will be among thousands of people morons who will stand up and be disruptive. I hope the networks do not show that. It's like the network rule about people who run onto the field is you never show them.
Right.
Do you think they will, Jim, discipline themselves?
Oh, got you. That's more your angle than mine. I mean, it's your business. I agree with you. I mean, there is no reason they can just say exactly what you just said. Look, some unlettered and unmannered moron is speaking up here. I hope that doesn't happen. I mean, I don't even know. Is this is going to be by invitation only? I assume, right? I mean,
I don't
where they're
know.
holding
I'm not
it.
going, but I've never known anyone to have known everyone in the way Charlie does. Everyone on our side and a lot of people on the other side of the political divide. And I think there are a lot of people who aren't political at all who are going because of their belief in Christ and in their faith and love of Charlie. So we'll see. I don't know if it's by invitation. It's a stadium. It's a football stadium.
See,
It could be
I should have known that, and I didn't. Then it probably won't be. And I understand them wanting everybody to come who can come. So, yeah, there may be some
Well, we'll
elements
pray about
there
it.
that. Yeah,
You and I are praying, man. We'll
That's
pray
what
about
Charlie
it, that
would
it
have done.
goes well, and that the video of it is something that his children will enjoy 5 and 10 and 15 and 30 and 50 years down the road, and that Erica will take comfort from, and that his friends and family will as well. Senator Jim Talent, thank you for joining me for an extended period today.